one of our online open house. The session is focusing specifically on the MFA Illustration program, but if you're curious about learning about any of our other graduate degree programs, we're having sessions for each of our degree programs all week. Between today and Thursday, we'll also have sessions with the Nature Lab and the Career Center, and tomorrow night, we're doing a student panel conversation with the Grad Studies Office. So it's a week to learn as much as you can ahead of the application deadline of January 5th. All right, everybody. All right, illustration. Do you think we're okay to start with some introductions?
Sure.
Perfect. All right. Susan, I'm not sure if you want to get started.
Hi, folks. I'm the current GPD, but I'm not going to say much today other than because I can't talk well. But we're very happy to see you. My background is in illustration, graphic design, printmaking, and painting. And look forward to your questions.
Great. Next, I have Andrea.
Hi everyone, my name is Andrea Dezo. I'm a professor in the program, and my background is in fine arts and illustration, public art, narrative. I'm really looking forward to this session.
Thank you, Andrea. Holly?
Hi, everybody. My name is Holly Gaborio. I am a critic and professor in the MFA as well as the BFA in illustration. I'm a documentary filmmaker. I'm also a graduate of the BFA program in illustration. And I do a lot of work with curation and design research and archives. And I'm very excited to answer any questions and yeah, represent the illustration department.
Jolene?
Hi, my name's Jolene. My areas are history of illustration, illustration research, and illustration studies. And I teach in the graduate program in theory and methods.
Wonderful. And finally, Kayla.
Hello, hi everyone. Welcome. And I'm Caliph Brown. I'm a professor in the illustration department. I teach in the grad program. I teach Studio 2, the narrative-focused studio in the spring semester of the first year, together with Andrea. I teach a number of electives as well in the undergrad department. In my own practice, I've started my career doing mostly freelance editorial and other types of freelance illustration, and now I've been focused maybe for the last 15, 20 years on creating children's books. So that's my background. So I'm looking forward to speaking with you and questions and what we get into today.
Fantastic. Thank you, everybody. So I will be hanging back. I'll be putting some helpful links in the chat as they go through a brief presentation, and then there'll be plenty of time after the presentation to do a Q&A. So feel free at any point to start typing your questions in the Q&A, or you can wait till after the presentation. But with that, Caliph, do you think you're ready?
Sure. I'm going to share my screen now and a presentation. I also should say that I was the graduate program director for the first 2 years of the program, from 2022 to 2024. Susan is the current GPD, but I will be speaking today. It'll be a bit easier for me to talk today. I'm sorry that Susan's having some loss of voice here today. So can everyone see this? Okay. So I'm going to start up at the beginning here. So I'm just going to read this initial introduction statement. The two-year illustration MFA program looks to the future of the field by focusing on critical perspectives, artistic voice, and visual literacy in the public realm. Aimed towards visual communicators with significant experience, the curriculum emphasizes reflection on the illustrator's role as an influential social actor, both within the profession and in the world.
Caliph, it looks like you're no longer sharing your screen anymore.
Huh. Okay. I'm sorry. Let me check back that again.
There you go.
There you go.
Perfect.
Okay, it dropped out. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And do you want to just
Um,
X out of the tools just to make the screen a little bit bigger?
okay. Does that help?
Uh, mm, no, that's okay. You can just close that little pop-up.
Okay, it's closed on my oh, here we go. It's closed on my end.
You can also hit Apple L and it will go full screen.
Okay.
There you go. Perfect.
All right. Is that better?
No, didn't change.
Okay. Um,
Try hitting the green button and it might make it go full
yeah,
screen.
it's not the green. Okay.
See where the word says convert? There's an X next to it.
Okay.
There you go.
Much better.
Okay, thank you. The program goals here, in RISD's MFA illustration, students learn how to turn illustration practice to the good of society and the transformation of the field. From our very first foundational studio, you will have opportunities for focused, personally meaningful study. Through increasingly complex projects oriented around critical issues in illustration theory and practice, the program supports your development of a final thesis project in your second year. All right, now I'm having trouble moving forward with this. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the curriculum, and I will talk about the studios first, perhaps, and then of our fellow faculty members who have joined us, we'll probably talk about the particular seminars and other classes. So the first year begins with the first studio. Susan has been the consistent faculty member teaching in this first studio together with other faculty members. And so the two required classes in that first fall semester are that first studio and the seminar, the Isms and Illustration seminar, which maybe Jeline can talk about a little bit. And then you have an elective for your third class in the first semester.
What I can tell you about the first 6 credit studio, it counts as it's 2 kind of windows of your time, and we encourage students to experiment with materials at the same time that we're talking about the foundational elements of what makes an image communicate. So we experiment with all kinds of media, and we talk about how storytelling takes place on both the level of what you show and how you show it. And because we encourage students from other backgrounds that perhaps don't have a BFA in illustration, we don't make assumptions about what your past has been educationally. So we thoroughly ground you in the practice of critique. So we spend a lot of time talking about mark making, color, and what symbols work or don't work, or who your audience might be through how you particularize your work.
Thank you, Susan. Jeline, do you want to talk a little bit about the Isms, an illustration seminar?
Sure. So theory and methods is one of the first courses that you take when you come into the program, because it sets you up for how to talk about your work in a scholarly and academic way. So the difference between just being an artist in the world or a BFA and the MFA, it's really about how do you position your work within a scholarly dialogue and be able to speak about it in relationship to theorizing, philosophizing about your own practice. So in this course, we just introduced to some key words and some key theorists who have been helpful for articulating how the visual works, both for yourself in the studio and in society more broadly. And we discuss issues with image making, and we also then produce a paper that is practice-led, meaning that you articulate what you're doing in your studio work. And this is a really important kind of first step in learning how to discuss your work that is a platform for you to eventually write your master's thesis on.
Thank you, Jolene. The first winter session, we have a required class, which is a really a fantastic course, um, an issues and media issues and literacy research practicum, in which students visit and interact with various special collections around Providence, not just at RISD. Our Fleet Library has an amazing special collections, but also places like um, special collections at Brown, other libraries, the Providence Athenaeum, and that is has really been a really fruitful and wonderful course in the first winter session. Anyone wanted to add anything else about the practicum? Okay, so moving on to the second semester, I mean the spring semester of the first year, Studio 2, which is taught by Andrea and myself, is a narratively focused studio. We begin with some sort of experimental exercises and assignments, one of which involves sort of like moving in as a complement to what happens in visiting special collections and those kinds of resources. We sort of delve into interacting with sort of fields of information and spaces that are outside of the art and research fields normally. And so we do some experimental assignments that serve as sort of warm-ups to the class. We work with deconstructing typography, using typography as an image making tool, and working with personal history and objects, creating narratives around them. And then we move into about an 8-week self-directed central project, narrative project in the course. Andrea, Andrea, who I co-teach the class with, do you want to add anything?
I just wanted to mention that we are also having in that class section visiting artists who add to the um, learning of the students. They present about their own work, their own practice, and also either hold a workshop for the students or do studio critiques with the students. So students at that point have a chance of showing their work beyond just us faculty. And also at the end of the semester, there's a larger than just our class critique of the studio where invited guests come and students have a chance to showcase their work in front of these guests.
Thank you, Andrea. So the other courses in that spring semester, there's a seminar, contemporary visual narrative seminar, in which other kinds of all kinds of actually visual narrative sources and aspects are investigated: graphic novels, sequential work, and narrative content within painting and illustration. And then there's a wonderful creative writing workshop that has been a real source of oftentimes has been tied directly by the students with the narrative project that they not only do in Studio 2. Many of the students, it's not required at all, but many of the students have brought in the writing that they're doing, that they're exploring in this narrative workshop, and merged it with the visual work they're doing in Studio 2, and then sometimes even taken that further into other semesters and later on in their graduate study. So that's been quite a wonderfully successful and rich area in which the writing that students are doing is really serving their visual work really well. And then you get another elective to choose in that spring semester from our department or other departments. You're free to work with other departments across the institution. And then so moving into the second year, we have the Studio 3 in the fall, social engagement and agency is one in which you are going to be sort of partnering or tying your work together with an outside entity, and RISD is involved with connecting students in that studio with organizations and other outside entities to work with together. That has also produced some really amazing projects. And then together in that second year fall semester is the graduate thesis prep seminar. And maybe Holly could talk about that a little bit.
Sure. So the course for the thesis prep focuses on preparation methods for writing your thesis. So it basically is a combination of reading assignments, written assignments, active class engagement, discussions, but primarily it's all about exploring a variety of approaches to how you think about your own artistic production and building upon ethical and responsible research practices through a number of approaches. Basically, the class is to demonstrate an interrelationship manner in which what is made and why is it made? How do you shape your awareness of the context for your audience? How to locate your intentions, and to build upon this creative intuition through research processes, and to become better storytellers and communicators while we work on our thesis. And this is also done through going to the special collections at the RISD Museum, the RISD Museum of Art, talking with curators there, as well as at the Bell Gallery. Sometimes we have guest speakers. This semester we have a scientist, creative practitioner, Felipe Shibuya, who was our creative researcher at the Nature Lab at RISD. We also have writing workshops. And basically, it is to get you completely set and confident with building an archive in which you can mine that then takes you towards thesis with no fear, hopefully.
Thank you, Holly. And then in the fall, you also have another opportunity for another elective for 15 credits. Moving into winter session, you can choose to take an elective there, or you can this is the grad teaching practicum, is that correct?
Yeah.
Grad can you talk a little, are you able to talk a little bit about that, Susan?
Sure. Yeah.
Sorry to make you.
The RISD MFA students who are interested in teaching at the college level, this is not for K through 12, can take 2 seminars or take a seminar and a research support practicum. And they're about how do you communicate to your students. So you make a syllabus, you propose a class, you do a demonstration and are filmed, and it's all like a bunch of, it's like creates a toolbox for you as a future teacher. And so you can either take the 2 seminars, or you can literally propose a course to be taught in your second winter session at RISD. And then you, if it's selected, not every course is selected, you have a research support network in another seminar. So on a day-to-day basis, as you're teaching, you can have professional help with what's going on in your class. And so you leave the school with a certificate that is either with teaching or the certificate just by itself. And students have found this helpful when applying for teaching jobs after RISD because they have demonstrated that they have teaching experience.
Thank you, Susan. So spring, your final semester is centered around thesis. There's Studio 4, which is the thesis studio course. Usually, I'll say back up a little bit. Usually, around winter session, this may happen earlier, but grads start to identify who they want to work with as a central thesis advisors. You have a main thesis advisor, and you also have a secondary thesis advisor. Your central thesis advisor can be from RISD or can be external, and that's true for a secondary. That's correct, right? Your central thesis advisor can be either within RISD or external. Is that correct?
That is correct, but your thesis chair has to be one of the faculty teaching Studio 4.
And we have that's co-taught by three faculty members. But in terms of a thesis advisor, students in the past have had faculty from the illustration department, from outside the illustration department in other disciplines within RISD. And also many students have had outside professionals, outside secondary thesis advisors as well. So the culmination of that work, the thesis work culminates in a large show here in Providence at the convention center with all the other grad programs. It's a really incredible event. Like the other studios, we have visiting artists and visiting artists coming in, doing workshops and giving presentations throughout the semester. And paired with the studio work, with the work on the for the work itself in the studio, there's also a seminar, Paradigms and Contexts, the publishing the thesis and beyond, which Susan has been teaching as well, and that contains the written portion, the written component of the thesis. If you're able, do you want to speak a little bit about that, Susan?
Sure. So every grad writes a formal thesis paper, and in some cases that might be an artist book that is also has a very physical component. But those who prefer to just write the paper, and it's usually illustrated with their own work and work that they have found inspirational, the students upload those to a database at the library that houses the grad student thesis papers. So it can be kind of a, well, I don't want to limit it, but it can be sort of something that explains the trajectory of your work, or it can be an art piece in and of itself that is very much driven by theory or ideas that you've encountered in your research. So they're all across the board, very, very different outcomes, very carefully looked at by the thesis teacher, and your people that are on your thesis committee also read your paper to corroborate that the artwork and, you know, sort of help you see your artwork in the context of all this writing.
Thank you, Susan. I think we'll move on to the next slide here. Assistantships are an important part of your experience as a grad here in illustration. Students are offered opportunities to serve in undergraduate courses as teaching assistants. These are paid positions. In addition to a teaching assistantship, you can also choose to do a research assistantship with a co-curricular partner, and some of the most popular ones here are listed. We've had grads doing really amazing work with the Nature Lab, Center for Arts and Language, with the RISD Museum, with the Special Collections, another popular one, and the Alpert School of Medicine at Brown. The teaching and learning in art and design, students interested in collegiate teaching are encouraged to take a sequence of seminars on teaching practice and may submit a syllabus to teach in their second year. Here's a note on the photo. Grads display undergraduate student work from their co-taught winter session course on fables and fairy tales at the There's a shot of the Athenaeum, the Providence Athenaeum, which is a wonderful resource. I spend a lot of time there myself. I've written a couple books there. But we've had a number of the grads have designed really wonderful courses and taught them during winter session. So it's a really great opportunity. Anybody else want to add anything to that component, the teaching, designing a course and teaching?
Most of the ones that students are enthusiastic about are ones that marry together what they're personally really inspired by, and they get to design a course around it. So it makes them very unique from winter session to winter session, because it's based on the grad's own, area of interest.
And you do have the opportunity to co-teach, which sometimes can, we've had, I think 2 or 3 pairs of students that have co-taught courses to design them together, work together. And I think that's been really fun and a good way to sort of ease into the teaching experience, to do it together with one of your colleagues, one of your fellow grads. As I mentioned, the grad exhibition at the Providence Convention Center. Everyone contributes. There's a nice wide
That's about
cinematic shot of the
that's about
space.
one, maybe 1/5 of the total space.
Yeah, it's a huge space, beautifully designed, beautifully laid out. A really fantastic event. Here's and the grads will do their final crits in the space itself, with lots of visiting critics, with the thesis advisors joining and visiting critics. It's a really wonderful culmination of the experience. Every grad takes part in an illustration biennial at the Saul Koffler Graduate Student Gallery, which is right next to our studios. We just had one that just closed. Our second participation in the second biennial we've been a part of, and I think we have some shots coming up from some of the work from the latest show. Great variety of work.
What's really nice about this is students can show something that isn't maybe quite finished. They're still working on it, and it's a great way for other majors to see the work and maybe form partnerships or have, start a dialogue with grad students you might not meet from other departments.
It's also wonderful to see the grads take advantage of a gallery space. We talk about and we see their work in the studio, and certainly there's lots of space in order to place the work, to think about how it would be shown. But it's really wonderful to see how students take advantage and how they sometimes adapt the work really beautifully for a gallery space and the particular aspects of that gallery. Some other shots so here's some shots from our shared studio and home space. It's been, as I said, I was the first GPD for the first couple of years, and we've all sort of seen this space become more lived in and customized, and really we've really adapted it. And students and the grads themselves have taken, of course, are a big part of that, making the space comfortable, making it functional, sharing the space together. It's really a fantastic laboratory. Some shots of crits. As we mentioned, each of the studios has a critique at the end of the open critique event at the end of the semester to show the work from that studio. The crits are open to the RISD community. We have, as was said, we have lots of visiting critics come in, faculty from other departments, outside critics as well, professionals coming in to participate in the critiques. There's just some, I think now we're going to have a little bit of work, I think, so a few slides of the work of grads, recent graduates. This was Ling Yi Kong did this a really amazing hybrid of animation, digital media, and sequential, more mixed with more traditional sequential aspects into this sort of really expansive narrative project. And a couple more pieces from grads from our first cohort, first graduating cohort. This was some work by Nellie Garati, who did this really. It was actually one of the most, I think, impactful pieces in that grad show, where she was merging silkscreen with organic materials, seeds, food dust. Her work was very much about agricultural production and workers and food and farming. This work led to a fellowship with NOAA and First Peoples Tribes monitoring salmon in the Columbia River in Oregon. I believe that Nellie also got fellowships to travel to Alaska, and has been continuing with this work.
This is a picture of the piece that finally came out of that salmon
Oh.
project. But what was, I just had a call with her the other day, and she said, the government funding dropped out for the project because of the current administration. And so she ended up being a liaison with the community of the local indigenous tribe to, kind of keep the project going. And she said it was all of the elements of her RISD education sort of coming to bear on how you keep a project going, how you mastermind a project, how you end up dealing with the publishing. So this is a big poster that ended up being produced, and she got the elders from the local tribes signed it, which was a first, the idea that there would be true collaboration acknowledged on both sides of an effort towards ecological health.
Mm. This is Nina. Nina's thesis work. Each grad writes and produces an MFA thesis that is inspired by the studies, as Susan has already sort of spoken to, collected and housed at in the Fleet Library on their database. They also contribute to a group essay book on illustration practice. Well, thank you very much. That ends this first part, and we're really looking forward to your questions now.
Wonderful. That was a very comprehensive presentation. I really appreciate that. Caliph and Susan, Caliph for presenting, Susan for assembling that.
For the most part.
Let's see here. We have one question in the Q&A, but I also have some questions queued up as well, just in case, to allow some people to keep adding some questions to the Q&A. Can you elaborate on how many students are in the program, and how has the program grown since it started?
Well, we currently have 25, is that correct? In both cohorts?
Oh, you're muted,
Susan, you're
Susan.
muted.
Sorry. We had 2 students who had to leave this fall, one for a health reason and one because they got married. So things change for them, but we normally, we try to target each cohort to about 12, give or take. So 24 or so is the target number.
Perfect. All right.
And that's been consistent. I'm sorry, that's been about more or less consistent from the beginning, if that was the other part of the question.
Thank you. All right. Best recommendation for cross electives. This person's actually interested in graphic design, but their work is actually more illustrative, and they were curious about finding a blend between the disciplines.
Are they asking maybe about particular kinds of classes or particular classes or within a recommendation for departmental?
That's my understanding. Yes, Kayla.
I think there's some classes within the illustration undergraduate department, electives for juniors and seniors that one is called image design, in which aspects of design and typography are an important aspect of the merging design elements and design practice with illustrative imagery. It's one I can think of off the top of my head. Of course, there's a lot of electives that could be taken within the graphic design department, which may have opportunities for creating illustration as well. I would think of editorial layout, editorial design classes, classes around publishing book covers and things like that. But I think there's a number of classes within our own offerings for juniors and seniors, our upper electives, in which would provide that opportunity to merge design with illustration.
And we also have a couple of illustration professors, which are in both departments. So we have several people who are listed as faculty in graphic design as well as faculty in illustration. So sometimes it's just great to figure out who do you want to work with. If there's that cross-pollination already, then who to approach or maybe send an email to and introduce yourself to.
Great. Thank you. How does the program balance traditional media, digital tools, and experimental approaches to image making?
Well, I think beyond some of the particular requirements or focuses on within Studio One, student can correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, I think after that, students are very much free to work digitally or traditionally, or I think we leave it to students to choose the media in which they want to work. There, if of course students want to use their electives to take certain skill-based classes, we have a number of those within the department, and of course within other departments as well. But it's really, I would say, up to the grads to identify how they themselves want to move within digital versus traditional practices and tools and media. And that may be that may be a kind of a foundational part of what they want to investigate here. That could be,
I would say most students come in kind of Procreate dependent, at least this in the last couple of years, but they certainly branch out. And over the last 2 years, the most common electives were in digital plus media, graphic design, and FAV, especially digital animation. But we don't discourage any kind of investigation. So right now in the first years who mostly only used Procreate before they got there, I would say more than half are now thoroughly investigating material like analog materials, but they want to integrate them back again into digital formats, either stop motion or ways to investigate installation or to actually, write and illustrate using digital materials.
and you've taught the digital and analog class, correct, Susan? So I mean,
Yeah.
that's an undergraduate elective in which that's
So yeah, we do it like a real drive-by in the grad Studio One where we have them all make analog layers, working with a partner, and they output a book really quickly using the risograph. So it's a way to think about color, but also collaboration, a quick topic, down and dirty, kind of like things you don't agonize over, so that you really see how direct your communication can be. We also do like an easy silkscreen kind of collaboration where they make basically one big image, but they all contribute images, things like that.
And there's also a lot of resources at RISD in which making becomes this meeting of digital and physical and digital and material. Lots of laser cutters and
Yep.
The CoWorks is an entity within a space within RISD where there's digital embroidery. There you can print on fabric or all sorts of things. CNC machines. What else do they have there?
They have
Yeah,
that crazy printer that can print on pretty much anything.
yeah. So there's lots of really amazing resources for different kinds of making in which that the digital and the material are colliding. Andrea had to go, but Andrea has taught a class called um,
Making is research.
making is research. Yes, sorry, thank you. Which is really right in that realm.
Great, thank you. All right, we have a question that came into the chat. This person is curious of artificial intelligence and generative image AI are addressed as potential obstacles to illustrations as a career, as well as how AI can be used and embraced as a tool for enhancing one's personal practice.
Well, we're asking lots of questions, as you are too. We actually did a workshop on AI with all the interested faculty to see, how we could frame it as a useful tool while sidestepping the obvious pitfalls of using AI. So I think I can't speak. Jolene probably would like to speak to it specifically in the and Holly in the research and writing areas. But we don't teach a class on how to deploy AI, and we ask students to disclose how and when they use AI, and we talk about it because it is out there. It's not going away. It has its strengths in certain photorealism, but it's also, it doesn't make decisions. It predicts what you're asking it to make. So you're ultimately responsible for the output in AI. And we want students to really grapple with that it's not like pushing a button and the problem is solved, that humans need to set up the guardrails and understand the capabilities in a meaningful way.
Can I jump in?
Yeah.
So you're going to find opinions among the faculty are as widely varied as they are outside of RISD and just in the general public about whether it's good or bad or whatever, helpful, not helpful. Certainly some faculty members in our department are vehemently against it for ethical reasons, which I fully support. At the same time, as Susan said, it's not going away. It has, in fact, even before the tools became widely available to everybody, we're already an industry standard in some areas of illustration, mostly in game concept art development and that kind of thing. But and there are people who are using it in creative ways. At RISD overall, the expectation is that any use of AI is done critically, right? And nobody is going to accept something the AI just put out unedited or unthought about. So it's not banned, but the support for it has a lot of caveats on it. I will say, as a historian, anytime a new technology has shown up in the world of illustration that is cheap, convenient, fast, and is good enough for use, doesn't mean it's good, just good enough, it will get adopted. So we're kind of, as an industry, between a rock and a hard place with it. That said, everyone I know who's out there and saw it come into their fields, they've adopted it in kind of useful ways to assist what they're already doing, but it does not replace them. AI cannot think critically. That's what we have humans for. That's what we have graduate degrees for, so that we can responsibly use it for a better outcome. So happy to keep discussing if you have follow-up thoughts about that.
I just wanted to jump in behind Jaylene on that. Agreeing on most fronts, I usually, when I talk across departments here at RISD to graduate students, and especially working with the graduate students in the illustration department, I'm always trying to put on the line the politics of ethics and representation and the idea that AI, is a colonial project. It is extractionary. If you're going to use it, you better know where these references are from, where they are from geographically, cultures, peoples, and that's where the research methodologies come in, that Jaylene presents in the first year, that I present in the second year. So, and this goes for image making, of course, and as Susan said, faculty are very interested in this conversation. But as students use AI, they also realize that there's a lot of misinformation, and that sometimes just knowing the proper channels of doing research and just making, whether it be digital or analog, is what we're trying to put forth here in the graduate program.
Great, thank you, Holly. Back to the questions. Let's see here, and there are a lot of support on everything that you said in the chat. This is a portfolio question, and Susan, I see that you started typing a response to this, but I'll just ask it. When submitting time-based work in the portfolio, is there a time limit? Are animation reels welcome, or do you prefer separate short submissions of each project?
We don't set a time limit. Very often students put a link in their portfolio to something that's hosted elsewhere because of its length. I would say if you've got something that has a varied visual component, please try not to put a whole bunch of still shots into one slide because we can't really see it when we zoom in. I would say, if you feel like we need to see the entire film or animation because the denouement or the culmination of it requires, really is not visible without seeing the whole thing, then you need to upload the whole thing. So send us a link to that if it doesn't work on the platform, and we will track down your link.
Correct. Yes. In Slide Room, there'll be a description section, and that's where you can drop the link to a longer version to whatever video you're submitting. All right. What are the immediate career outcomes for your grads? Do they stay in Providence afterwards?
It's a variety, I think. I'm not sure many of them stay in Providence, but some have. We've had students move directly into college level teaching positions from coming out of the program. We've had students working within publishing, continuing to pursue gallery practice. Anyone add other more recent?
I'd say a couple students every year stay in Providence because they love the community, or they've got a roommate and they've decided, we're not sure what we're doing next. And it's a good, they've already kind of set up their apartments, but most people don't stay in Providence. They stay connected to each other, but mostly go wherever the next opportunity is, or if they have strong family ties, some go home.
Mm-hmm.
Great. And I just dropped a link for the Career Center webinar we're doing later this week on Wednesday. Kevin Jankowski will be hosting that session, and it's a great opportunity to learn about the resources that office provides to current students as well as graduated students. They will continue to support you even after you graduate. All right. Can you tell us a little bit more about the fellowship program? If they understand correctly, there is a research fellowship opportunity while completing the master's degree.
If you want to talk about it, or you want me to?
There are a number of fellowship opportunities. There's the Maharam Fellowship, correct?
Correct.
I'm not as knowledgeable, I think, as maybe some others about those opportunities.
Well, I think we just need to also get the vocabulary nailed down. Every grad student gets some tuition assistance, which is referred to as a fellowship by financial aid. So that's basically, you have to file a report on your finances, and you will be awarded a fellowship, which is to help you with tuition. And then on top of that, the assistantships are RISD's particular nomenclature for what other schools call fellowships. So they're jobs that are meant to teach you something, but also you give back to the RISD community and you get paid for them. So they all kind of are the department specific awards that go towards funding your education. Beyond that, what Caleb is talking about, there are research opportunities. If you look on RISD Research, where you can propose a project and get help to fund a project, or the Maharam is very specifically outward facing money that goes towards a community development project, or like a larger scope project that happens, that you report back on to the Maharam committee. So they're all a little bit different, but if you look on RISD Research, you should see some of them, but just know that there is the financial support that you get. RISD calls your fellowship.
Thank you for making that.
And the assistantship is guaranteed. There's a guaranteed assistantship.
Yeah. So
for each grad.
Yeah. So make sure you fill out the financial aid form when you apply, even if you don't think you're going to need it, just because the financial awards don't happen if we don't have that on.
Great. And I just want to elaborate on that. Also, all graduate students, international and US students, are eligible for fellowships at RISD. In order to be considered for aid, you'll want to complete the RISD institutional financial aid form. Again, all students need to fill that out, whether you're international or domestic. That will be in your applicant status portal after you submit your application. That will be due February 1st. Domestic students will also need to fill out the FAFSA if they want to be considered for federal financial aid as well. I just dropped a link to a website that talks a little bit more about graduate assistantships, graduate commons grants, graduate commons project assistantships. If you want to learn more about this, we'll be doing a webinar tomorrow night with the Grad Studies Office. Their office manages a lot of these other research opportunities as well. And then this is just a statement. This is not a question, but somebody just really appreciates your thoughtfulness of the illustration practice embedded in the program. It feels really refined, and they're excited to learn from the other department to learn about other departments to learn more about their program as well. All right, perfect. All right, adding to this other question that you guys so elaborately discussed, is the future of the field of illustration threatened by the rampant rise of artificial intelligence, while traditional illustration work takes a back seat? This is a loaded question, I think.
I'll say that there are others within the department who are much maybe more knowledgeable. Susan and Julie, probably everyone here, is the case more so than myself, perhaps. Jolene's comment about good enough, I think is really in terms of just AI generated imagery taking the place of freelance illustrators. That good enough, that kind of mediocre or level in which generative AI rises reminds me of stock illustration moving into becoming more of a thing in decades ago, and there was a sense that is this going to replace freelancers? And I sort of see the way that generative AI imagery is sort of inserting itself in various spaces now. It has a similar feel in which it feels like it's good enough. It's being used, I think, by entities that would probably not commission illustration anyway, and kind of functions as this flattened version of illustration that I don't think is really competing with thoughtful, creative, unique illustrators, but is kind of commanding this kind of very mid-level functionary place that is not really, in a sense, competing with really personal, unique, work out there. I think that's sort of, I feel like there's a plateau there that's happened. And it's also feeding off the same imagery over and over again, too.
I would just add to that, from working with artists in communities around here, everyone is so based in material practices that I think that it's important to know, and as I say to most students who are undergrads as well as grads, you have your voice. You're the storyteller. It's how you communicate that through your material. That's what makes you unique. That's what's going to make you get hired. That's what's going to make you have an exciting, really enriched career. And knowing about AI, and then also knowing when your work is possibly getting stolen by AI. We need to be cognizant of what's happening out there, so that way you can also know your rights towards your work. So at least those are the conversations that I have curatorially as well as program-based with artists here and around Providence and RISD.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. All right. We're just about out of time, and we've answered all the questions. So I think that will do it if there isn't any more questions coming in the last 4 minutes or so. But And Susan, correct me if I'm wrong, but if anybody has questions after this, you're welcome to email us at admissions@risd.edu, and I'll direct them back over to Susan, who can help answer them. I know this conversation probably will trickle some things for you to ask later on, so feel free to send those along our way. I will do my best to answer them as quickly as possible. I do have a busy week this week managing all the webinars, but I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. This session is recorded, so if you'd like a copy of the recording, it will be posted to a YouTube playlist where we will be putting all of the sessions for open house, and we'll be sharing that with everybody afterwards. But with that, I want to thank all our faculty for being here today. And I want to thank everybody for signing on to watch and learn more about our MFA illustration program. I hope you attend more sessions this week, and I hope to see your applications soon. And yeah, that will do it. Thank you, everybody. Have a
Thank
great
you.
night
Thank you.
or morning, wherever you're signing on from. Bye-bye.